Schools are closed for the balance of the year in both Kansas and Virginia, and other states are closed temporarily, some on extended spring breaks. In some places, it's a longer closure. It certainly feels like we are headed towards more and more schools closing for the balance of this school year. We've talked a lot over the past few videos about this hierarchy of needs. We've really started to anchor a lot of what we're finding and sharing to it, starting with getting organized, health, safety, nutrition, understanding policy, which is changing by the day, and then engagement and relationships, access and distance learning models, and then learning. And we are seeing some people start to jump up to learning, trying to figure out learning plans for the coming week or weeks. What I want to focus a little bit of time on today is engagement and relationships and what we're seeing as promising practices here, and then talk a little bit about access and devices. On the relationship front, we are starting to see some schools checking in with families, just picking up the phone and reaching out family by family, student by student, just to check in. Sometimes they're doing this while still on spring break. Sometimes they're doing this once they're back. But the idea of, this is a crisis that is affecting communities in significant ways, and just touching base can first of all help leaders understand what needs they're trying to solve for, and can ensure that families feel like we are there for you. And so simple questions: how are you doing? What are you worried about? How have you been spending your time? What has been helpful? What resources do you have at home? What's your schedule? What do you need from us? Also seeing some schools thoughtfully prioritize having these conversations with the students who need the most first, so that they can really understand, for students with IEPs and for students in poverty, what is going on, and really just get close to kids and families in order to be able to respond to those needs. Some different ways of tracking this. Some people are just using gradebooks or simple Excel spreadsheets. Some are using their student information system just to track, have we been in touch, using tools ideally that people already have and know. So there's a new resource on the hub with these questions, but I certainly think that we're seeing families appreciate the personal contact and just the sense of closeness in a time of crisis. I don't have a solution for prom, but we are starting to see some interesting solutions for things like canceled musicals. So trying to get creative with creating music video versions of your school musical, certainly a way to bring some joy and community. So people are doing everything from just recording their parts on Zoom to trying to create mashups with maybe old video footage. So there's some fun YouTube videos going around. Might be something that theater groups and play directors would enjoy digging into. Let's shift to talk about access and platforms and systems. There was a good interview that I read today with Brad Rathgeber, the head of schools and CEO of One Schoolhouse, which is a virtual school. And I thought there was some really good wisdom in this interview. He talked a lot about ensuring that solutions are simple. In a crisis, simple technology is the best technology. So be careful to try to teach people new skills at a time of crisis, because they may be less able to adapt. I thought that was good wisdom. He also shared that the way he is talking about it with schools is moving to a distance learning model, not an online learning model. And with distance, you're taking the components of a typical school day and moving them to a remote equivalent. and you're continuing to lean on what you know, the pedagogy, the curriculum, the practices you have, but doing it in a remote equivalent way. So we are using the word distance learning, not online learning, because there are different models. There's analog models, hard copy, textbooks, work packets. Even in an analog model, we're seeing schools start to think about, how do I take a picture of student work and then text it to my teacher, leaning on cell phones, even in the analog model in some ways. Digital, entirely more of an online model, may be an option, especially in high school, but does not feel like it's a super viable option in a number of communities and in the elementary grades. This hybrid idea certainly seems to be where more traction is happening, and we see more examples emerging. We have added to the resource hub. So this is the COVID resource hub on the Instruction Partners website. And under instructional management structures and routines, there's the different models. And then we now have sample schedules for each of the distance models. So what is a sample schedule for a digital model, an analog, and a hybrid that schools can explore and look at? And so there is, much in there that I think schools will benefit from. Again, that is just Instruction Partners COVID Resource Hub sample schedules. Let me just link here and just make sure to show that example. So a daily student schedule for K-5 distance learning. Go back to presenting. And so just want to close today by sharing my email. As solutions come to you, as questions come, please feel free to share them. Emily.freitag@instructionpartners.org, on Twitter @EBFreitag. Now, you can subscribe to these videos through YouTube. We're also exploring creating a daily listserv so we could push it out through email, but we know that people are drowning in emails right now and trying to figure out the way that we can be helpful but not add to the static. So if you have any ideas, let us know. And remember, you can do this and celebrate every tiny victory, one step at a time together.